Okay. Welcome to your ASMR horoscopes. I'm kidding. I'm going to do these normal. I laugh at my own jokes. So there's a full moon in Libra. This is about the waning moon. So I'm going to talk about the full moon, but the time April 16th through May 30th is the moon is waning. So we're expending all the energy that we built up over the past 2 weeks, which was the very end of March, like the very last day of March through today. That was like ramping up. You're like building. So the full moon in Libra, there will be like a culmination of, whatever you've been ramping up since the last dark moon. And then also a culmination of whatever seeds were planted. I know everybody uses that for the dark moon, but during the dark moon in Libra back in the fall, I don't remember what day that was. I can put it in the notes. So there could be like a culmination regarding a one-on-one relationship. Libra is two things. We have the sun in Aries right now, which is like the me show, or war, rather. But Libra is like two things. So there's like a relation. The air signs all are like a relatey social two things. Like Gemini's, it's like two things, but one thing. Gemini rules the hands. They like send and receive messages. They transmit information. They're two things, but they're also one thing, your hands. And then Aquarius is like everything as it is, and then the view from exile or from 10,000 feet or whatever, those things together of like everything and then the view from the outside. Which is kind of how you get the collective if you like step back and look at them as a mob, I guess. Not like mafia mob, like a crowd. So Libra is the cardinal air sign. So it's like getting started with this social one-on-one relationship thing. Hang on. I was having a technical difficulty. Sorry about that. Anyway, so Libra is the cardinal air sign. So it's like me and then someone else. Like an awareness of the other. There's a culmination that has to do with that stuff. It's also squaring Pluto, which is fun and interesting. So this is a Venus-ruled moon, and Venus is exalted. Squaring Pluto, which Venus had multiple contacts with back in the winter. That was basically November, like the end of November through early March. Venus was in Capricorn and connecting to Pluto December 11th, December 25th, and March 3rd. So there's something kind of full circle. That's a nice keyword for a full moon. Full circle. Yeah, so the full moon in Libra is squaring Saturn or Pluto in Capricorn. So some power struggle stuff that you might have been going through in the winter, or just like getting a lot of work done. There's going to be some sort of connection with that on the full moon on the 16th. And then we are headed downhill. And the 2 weeks. So we're like headed downhill into an eclipse, into like, it's like if you're sliding downhill and there's, and it goes and you slide into a tunnel that's like black light lit. That's at the very end of these 2 weeks. But so we have a lot of, on the 17th, the day after this Venus-ruled full moon, we have a lot of Mercury-Venus connections, which is nice for art. So if you want to spend this energy, like the full moon energy, on making art, doing your thing, do that. Mercury-Venus connections are very artistic. If we're bringing Mercury to Venus, so we're seeing the beauty in... Or we're intellectualizing beauty. Okay, working out the kinks on this. And so I think of, with Mercury-Venus connections, I think of Jeff Koons. If you look, he like made this, I mean everything he makes, but he made this like balloon animal that is made of metal. So it's like not only, Mercury intellectualizes beauty and luxury, and brings engagement with skill to it, but Venus embodies the intellectual also. So that's interesting. Like, if you look at that balloon animal, like, that is a thought process given a body. I think that's really interesting. Anyway, so on the 17th, we have Mercury sextiling Venus. So that's a really amazing opportunity to make stuff. And then we have Mercury conjoining Uranus. So that's kind of like lateral thinking. Like, you have the choice between option A and option B. We're going with option Z. So that could be really interesting for innovation, but it could also bring like expect the unexpected with Uranus. You might want to like clear your schedule for like some mad scientist time if you can. If you have too much going on and you're like very concerned about sticking to a schedule, like back-to-back things, you might get a wrench thrown into that. But so then also Venus sextiles Uranus. So really good. Again, like get in your lab on the 16th, the 17th. On the 18th, your lab or like your maker space. On the 18th, the sun squares Pluto. So this is, the sun sextiling Saturn earlier last week was like an opportunity to be judged or be on stage. And this is like your identity connecting to the crumbling toxic power structure that's falling apart and ending Western civilization right now. Somehow like our the capacity for leadership in our identity is like gonna like butt heads with deeply wrought power structures. I keep using that for Pluto and Capricorn, as does everyone else. So I think it's fine to repeat it. It's a good combination of keywords. And then, or it could be like dealing with stuff having to do with shame, except you like overcome it because the sun is exalted. And then at the end of next week, we have Mercury conjoining the North Node on the same day that Mercury squares Saturn. So first we're headed into eclipse season, and Mercury is conjoining the North Node. So you'll get maybe like a preview of like thinking and talking about whatever's going to come up in the Taurus part of your chart and the Scorpio part of your chart, that axis around eclipse season. Also, Mercury doesn't really like the North Node very much. Mercury's here to like figure things out and map everything and get all the patch cables plugged in correctly. But the North Node is like, I just think of the term lockjaw. Like it's like it's the head of the dragon. So it like clamps down and it doesn't let go. So when you have like your intellectual capacity and your engagement with skill, that could be good for like going like ham on something. But you could also like be like stubbornly committed to doing like the wrong thing or something that ends up like having ramifications that are like crazy and you never would have thought. So be careful with Mercury North Node. Could be really good if you like need to do a lot of writing or whatever. You just might want to interrogate that a little bit. And then especially because Mercury is going to square Saturn after that. So Saturn in Aquarius. So whatever you're doing in the Taurus part of your chart, it's going to be in conflict with like having to be patient, having to wait. Like Mercury North Node wants to like do it now, but Saturn's like, no, you have to wait. Or is like, this isn't good enough. This isn't going to work. Saturn says no. I mean, a square could be productive. Like if you've been dedicated to some sort of mercurial practice, you might get like some sort of like grating reward of some kind, maybe. You can always work with things constructively, even hard aspects with malefics. And then after that, Mercury sextiles Neptune. So I don't know, Mercury North Node and then Saturn and then sextiling Neptune. It's kind of like I'm doing this thing. I don't care if it's the right thing. It's kind of connected to eclipse stuff and like weird changes or doing things before you're ready. And then Saturn says no or like somehow slows that down. And then Mercury sextiling Neptune on the 24th is like, okay, well then I'm gonna like get drunk or like smoke weed or something. Fuck it then. It could be like that. Or you could use Neptune stuff constructively. However, that's done with Mercury and Neptune. Write poetry. So you're doing like Mercury North Node Taurus stuff, which could be like insane, like planning. What are all my resources? And how am I going to use them? And how do I like make time work for me and like get into a rhythm? And then Saturn says no. And then Mercury sextiles Neptune. So it's like, okay, well then never mind. We'll just like write haikus. Maybe you could do like some sort of poetry slam or something. Or write fiction. So that's what's going on there. The 24th, 23rd and 24th. Weird Mercury stuff. So if you're like a Gemini or a Virgo, that would be up for you. On the 26th, continuing the Mercury theme, Mercury enters shadow. And so this is like the prologue to Mercury retrograde coming up later. Mercury is going to station retrograde in Gemini and go back through Taurus. And so on the 26th, Mercury is going to hit the degree. It's going to hit the degree that it's going to station direct on later. Anything you do from the 26th on is going to be reevaluated later in the late spring, coming up, like heading up to summer. And Mercury also sextiles Jupiter on this day, so I always think of The Magic of Thinking Big, which is the name of a book that I've never read, but that's good for Jupiter. So there might be like a lot of big plans, but they're going to be like warped and weird, and we're headed into eclipse season, and so like just like be still and listen if you can. You know, we can't all put our lives on hold for Mercury retrograde or eclipse seasons, but just keeping an eye on everything. Is that helpful advice? Venus conjoins Neptune, which is probably going to be pretty nice, but also, you know, with Venus and Neptune, there's like a lot of idealization about stuff. And, you know, you want to believe in romance, but it could be like the best thing ever if you have like some sort of, like if you have a good relationship with Neptune, which is tricky. Also, Venus and Neptune, so like Neptune is like deceptive and can not trick you, but like it's illusion and reality, what's real and what's not. So when you have Venus entanglements there, like that's one-on-one relationships or like luxuries or like pleasures that are embodied, like money and food, like beauty stuff. It might not be totally clear, although it could be like the heady, like romantic thing that you think it is. Also, however, Venus and Neptune together can bring like delightful illusions, like can bring pleasure with illusions. I think of like a lot of magicians, Venus, Neptune connections. On the same day, Mercury trines Pluto. So that's like whistleblowing. And it's a trine, so, you know, you might not get too fucked up if you speak truth to power during this time. Also, like information that brings something out into the open, but maybe it's helpful because it's a trine. Again, that stuff that you worked with all winter with Venus in the Capricorn part of your chart is being connected to with the messenger. On the 29th, the day before the solar eclipse, which I'll talk about next time, Mercury moves into Gemini. Mercury's still in shadow, so it's going to retrograde back into Taurus later. So it's like a temporary, it's not quite like the swiftness and the chattiness and the easy conveyance, I guess, that you would get from Gemini. It's like going to be all over the place and it's going to go backwards. So, and that's also going to connect to like stuff that happened last year with the eclipses in Gemini. So it might be like revisiting some stuff because we have Mercury moving into Gemini, even though this eclipse is in Taurus. Like they're connected this time. Mercury's moving back into Taurus. Mercury's like a weird, like a liminal agent. Always, but for this series of eclipses. And also on the 29th, the day before the eclipse, Pluto stations retrograde. So there's Pluto themes intensify, power structures, power struggles, shame. Things like elephants in the room might be more intense during this time because Pluto is like hovering around a degree before it starts to move backwards. And then there'll be like a drawing back of Pluto themes. But so like the Mercury trine Pluto earlier in the week, you know, something might like get, not boil over, but like start to rumble. It's Mercury in Taurus and Pluto in Capricorn in earth signs. And then on the 30th, we have a solar eclipse. I'm going to talk about this more next time, but eclipses, I like to treat them as like time temples. I like to just like clean and meditate and try not to make any like major life decisions, although only you know what's best for you. But normally emotions can be pretty intense during eclipse season, so just like taking note of what's going on and metabolizing it and cleaning is typically a pretty good practice. Okay, that's it.